It's time to speak it. And I am back. I'm your girl, Shulie G, and it is Thursday. And let me go ahead and get Pop Smoke off over here. I tried to turn my music off. We got Pop Smoke with Lil Baby, and that's not our theme song. I don't even know who the baby. I don't know if it's the baby or Lil Baby. But we are back. Speaking of babies, there goes just kidding, my partner in conversation, LB Jenkins. How you doing, LeBrandon?
Man, I'm out here. I'm doing pretty well besides all this sweating I got going on tonight. I got my pastor towel, so if y'all see me wipe my head, just trying to dry off a little bit.
The ladies got you sweating because we have this all woman. I was going to say female. I don't like that word, but this panel of women. And we are ready. We've had so much going on in the world, and why not? Speaking is about speaking our truth. We are back in the spirit of the West African term ashe. Speak a thing into existence. We know that our words have power. And with that said, we're about to do a thing, LeBrandon. What are we about to do tonight? What are we about to do?
Listen here, tonight we are getting ready to talk about the famous phrase that's just stemming across all social media, all radio stations, we called it situationships back in the day. You guys call it an entanglement. But tonight, we are going to talk about dating past 30. But the spin on it is we're just going to get a female's perspective on dating past 30. So fellas, as you chime in, just know I'm the only male here, so y'all do not leave me hanging. But the women are going to talk about what it is like to date. What is it like to be in a situationship? Is it real? Is it fake? Like, what's the truth about it? So that is what we're talking about tonight. Yeah. So we're here tonight to talk about it. Shulie has just kind of put a spin on things. Believe it or not, she's going to be a guest tonight. So we'll get to hear her perspective on it. And so I'll be so she's going to be part of the panel. So we're kind of excited to see, what this show is going to bring.
Yes. And as we get ready to bring our guest on, everybody, as you enter the studio, go ahead and take your virtual seats. And you might want to put your seatbelts on tonight because we have a spicy conversation. We have my Graham fam, I was going to say partner in crime. I don't know why I'm stuck on that. I think Pump the Party, Gremlin Days.
That's it. Renaissance.
My turn up twin is with us tonight in the studio. We have Miss Paula Son. And so when you come, drop your city. Let us know where you're from, where you're tuning in from. And I'm sure you all are going to want to talk. So just make sure you're registered on StreamYard so that we see your name. Without further ado, let's go ahead and bring our guest on. We have Paula Son, like I said. And then this is my new girl over here. I want to call her J. Marie. So, Brandon, I'm going to take my seat. I'm used to hosting, and we're going to see. I'm about to be quiet.
Okay, all right. Listen. Let's put this spin on this thing really quick. So that we can get started, we're going to do a quick little icebreaker. We're talking about dating in the 30s. So I am going to throw out some things to you guys, and I want to know if you will be able to answer them. Now, everyone on this panel should be able to answer these questions, but if you can't, it's okay. Nobody's going to lose a job. Nothing's going to happen to anything, all right? So we're talking about songs, all right? So check this out. What time was Usher in his drop top cruising the streets?
7 o'clock.
Okay, all right. That was at 7 o'clock on the dot. I'm in my drop top cruising the streets. All right. Yeah, that was a pretty dope song back in the day. All right. If you don't get this one, you have lost your black card. What should you do if you don't want Fantasia?
If you don't want me, then don't talk to me.
That's right. Now listen, we know she can't read, but she can sing, right?
Come on, LeBrandon. We're not doing that. I'm a speech pathologist. Literacy is important. We love her. And she can now.
No, listen, I do. I love her. She is. If you've ever seen her live, she will take you to church at an R&B concert. I do. I love me some Fantasia. I do. We're gonna do one more. We're gonna do one more. Here we go. Let's see. What will Shy be sure of if he falls in love?
That the lady is a friend.
That the lady. That a lady is a friend. And and so with that last comment, guys, thank you for participating. It kind of segues us into our conversation, okay? So getting started, J. Marie, would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself?
All right, guys. So my name is Jessica Marie. All my friends call me J. Marie. So by day, I'm an educator. I'm a literacy specialist currently, and I also am an author. My books are available on Amazon. I have one talking about relationships. It's a memoir. It's called In Love with the Doughboy. And then I have a new release that came out in April. It's a children's book, and it's called Who Would Have Thought? And it's just both of them actually talk about things that you go through. You can learn from it, and it doesn't matter where you start, but it's how you finish. So that's kind of me and what I do and public speak. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. So In Love with a Doughboy. Now that right there will preach. I'm gonna have to ask you something about that in about 5 minutes. About 5 minutes. Come on, Miss Paula Son, my Graham fam. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, I am Paula Son. I am a native of Opelousas, Louisiana, but I do reside in McKinney, Texas. I am a proud graduate of the Grambling State University. The Grambling State University. I am a licensed clinical pastoral counselor. I am also a speaker, and I am also an author. I wrote a book 6 years ago called Finding the Yes in the No, a guide to overcoming rejection. And it's so funny today that in my memories, I saw something that I posted from the book, and it simply said, sometimes we try to force something to work when God doesn't want it to work.
Amen. And that's actually the blessing that it didn't work.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And Shulie, we all know about you. Now, Shulie and I have something that we need to tell you guys. We just need to go ahead on and put it out there.
We have a secret.
We have a secret. I'm gonna let her introduce her, just tell a little bit about herself first as a panel guest.
Well, so I got these new braids, and you know how people have to stroke their braids and they got to do stuff. You got to talk with your braids. So pardon me while I talk with my hair. Speaking of communication, I am a speech pathologist. And what that means is I'm pretty much like a communication superhero, if you will. But my specialty is voice. I work with those people to help them to heal, love, and unleash their voices. So if a person maybe lose their voice, they are talking too much, or they have some type of injury, I help them overcome it. And on top of that, I'm a business owner, the owner of the Speech and Voice Care Center of Houston. And I love people, founder of the group Theater Freedom, which is over on Facebook. Join the group. That's where the conversation continues. That's where we get into some good work and we help people to develop. But I love people, and I love to see people walk in their purpose, to see people be free to be who they are, which is what Speak It is all about. It was just birthed out of helping people to share their truth and break barriers. So being able to speak things in existence. Now about you and I, Brandon and I have a history. We are Graham fam. We go back to Gamma Beta Phi, founded
GB5.
1964. Grambling State University. He's from Lake Charles. I'm from Winfield, Louisiana. The connection, Grambling. So we've just known each other. We have a great chemistry. People see us together, and I just feel like Brandon, it's time for us to let the people know. Okay. You want to say it together?
You ready? 1, 2, 3.
We ain't together.
We're not together. We just friends. So we didn't put it out there so y'all can hit her inbox. Y'all can hit mine because that's how it works. Okay. We're single. All right, guys. All right. So look, this topic of situationships is big, right? Dating over 30 can sometimes just be like a hassle sometimes, right? Like back in the day, you was in high school, you used to send that note. You like me, you check yes or no, but we're not at that point anymore, right? We're at a point to where things are a little bit more meaningful when we're dating. So guys, I want you to kind of take this note, and this is going to segue us in. So in looking at dating and couples and what those things look like, I want you to listen to these names I'm getting ready to drop y'all, and I want y'all to tell me how does this relate to situationships, entanglements, and those kind of things like that, okay? So here we go. Whitley and Dwayne.
Situationship.
Situationship? What makes it a situationship?
Well, I would say, well, you know what? I think it was a situationship turned into a relationship and then a situationship. Like it was hard for them to get it together, but I felt like they had love for one another, but they were just so different.
Okay.
Yes, I agree. I think it was a mixture, but when they got it together, it was like amazing. Like everybody wants that Whitley, relationship with Dwayne.
Okay. What about Laura and Steve?
Situationship. Definitely.
Okay.
Laura didn't want him till he got fined. She didn't want him till he got fined.
Stephon Urkel.
Yeah,
Okay. But now, ladies, do you find yourself in that situation, not wanting a guy until he's glowed up, right? Like he was really, really into you, right? And he was a nobody. Because I'm gonna just be honest, I heard somebody say lames is what's in, like, because that glow up is what make it. So have you guys find yourselves in something like that?
Definitely. I would say that I found myself in situations like that because I felt like, oh, if I invest the time and build this man to kind of be who I want him to be, then it'll work out good for me. But then what ends up happening, they get too fine or they glow up too much and then they forget where they started. So yes, definitely. I found myself in that situation.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is that you basically feel like you're grooming a man to be the man that you want him to be in this situation. Okay. So then what happens, ladies, when the grooming doesn't go the direction that you want it to go? Forget
Paula,
the
do you want to speak on that? Because I want to talk on it, but I'll let you
go ahead.
I've been in this situation, right? This show is all about truth and all of that kind of stuff. And I'll say being single for most of my 40 years. I feel like I've made it to the woman of a certain age category. I've been in that place where I've stuck it out. I've hung in there with the guy and I felt like he had promise and I feel like groomed him. I won't call names on this show because some of them still follow me on social media. But I can pretty much say that I think that they are definitely a better man. And I forget that I know that they are a better man for having been with me and the things that we talked about, the things that we experienced together. And I've had that happen at least on 2 or 3 occasions where we didn't work out, but then they married somebody else. And I felt like, wow, why do I have to be this stepping stone for somebody in that crossover point? And that was rough for me. But yes, I definitely feel like I've groomed several. So I think they might need to send me some kind of check for being a grooming. Maybe that's a new title.
Let me tell you. So when you talk about that, Shulie, that makes me think, a lot of people ask me in one of my last relationships, like, why did you stay so long? But I feel like Beyonce, like she gonna profit everything I taught. And I'm not as mature as you. I didn't put in all this work and then you're gonna just give all this wonderfulness to somebody else. But I'm proud of you because it's power in knowing that just wasn't for me. But I don't have time to put in that much work for you to just go give it to somebody else.
Okay.
And that is a reality in terms of that, like you said, in all honesty. So you put in the work, but if we were supposed to be together, I feel like we really would have been together. And thinking back on different situations, it just wasn't the right thing for me.
Okay. All right. So now when we're looking at, based on what you said, this grooming of men, I gotta stay political tonight because I'm by myself, but this grooming of men, right? Were you guys in this situation with titles, without titles? And how much bearing does a title have in developing these situations?
Okay, well, to me, titles are important because when you don't put titles on things, I feel like it's a trick. When men say things like, you know what it is, I know what it is, that is a trick because at the end of the day, they can say, well, we wasn't together, but you were doing everything that couples do. And so in order to protect yourself, you need to know what it is that you're involved in. What is our title? What do I mean to you? Or else you'll get bamboozled and waste your time. And then you didn't help again, like Shulie said, groom somebody for someone else. And then life is short. So you're giving your years grooming people, and it's just a waste.
Okay.
Short answer, with titles, I have a hard time not knowing, and that's caused some issues in some relationships because I need to know, because that lets me know how to conduct myself. And I've definitely fallen into, I would say, some weird places with men when I pop that, so what are we doing here? So the three specific people that I have in mind with titles, it just did not work out. And it might have been an off and on, but with titles.
Okay. So Paula, I'm going to ask you a question right now because you're kind of laid back, you're kind of chill right now, but I need to hear from my girl. Okay. So listen. So here's a question that I have, right? And this is coming from a men's perspective, right? So, and I shared this with Shulie earlier, right? Do you find this to be a situationship or an entanglement when the guy is Ubering to your house and you never know what kind of car he drives, you don't know where he stays, but every time he rolled through, he coming through in an Uber? Yeah, talk to me about your feelings about that.
That sounds like a straight up entanglement. It sounds like there's a lack of honesty. It sounds like something is being hid. It sounds like it gives room for so many questions. Now, if a woman is just satisfied with him just coming to the house and just being there, some women like that. But then there are some women who will dig deeper into things and wonder, hey, why don't you ever drive to my house? Oh, why do I only talk to you at night? Or why do I only talk to you when you're at work? I think it's about paying attention to a lot of small things, and I'm a detailed person. So I pay attention to details and behavior patterns, and behavior patterns don't lie.
Okay. So my friend Amy says he's hiding another family.
Yes, Amy is correct, honey.
That could be the case. There are some people hiding out there.
Yes.
Let me tell y'all, it took me a while to get this. And I am a daddy's girl, right? And so my dad was like, you always picking the wrong ones. And what he told me, and it took me a while to realize he was correct. If a man wants you, is what he said. If a man wants you, there will be no question of what your title is. He's not going to be hiding. You can pop up at his house because he's not going to be hiding the family. So when you are in a healthy relationship with a man who is really into you, you're going to know that he's into you. Like he said, like my dad said, he going to make a way. If he don't have gas money, he's still going to find a way over there. You know what I'm saying?
Access.
So we're making a way out of no way. Listen, India says, this is a question per Robin. What would make you invest so much time and attention in someone who has not committed to you or asked you for your hand in marriage? Ladies?
We're silent. Nobody wants to go first. I'll go first. Definitely too, right? We know that your beliefs, how you were raised, maybe things that you were taught, but you go into a relationship, first of all, understanding that it's going to require work. And I just think about when I was younger, it was putting in work was a part of it, and going through trials and tribulations. That's what you heard. You stick it out, you go through it, you hang in there with that man. And then sometimes it's the examples of what you've seen, and definitely songs like A Piece of Man is better than no man at all. And I came to a place where I'm like, nah, I need you whole, honey. I love you. I'm working on myself, but I need you whole. But I would definitely say, definitely it could be low self-esteem, it could be insecurity, it could be false teachings, or that you've just seen examples of women hanging in there and working through it and fighting through it and sticking it out in hopes that, or believing that that's what men do. And that's right. in return, that's what women are supposed to do. Love, nurture, love harder.
I agree. And another thing, as we mentioned before, and I think I talked about that, sometimes you have invested time. And so not to waste your time, you stay hoping, like Shulie said, hoping that it's going to get better, or saying, oh, this is what happened. And I know it's from the different generations, like my grandmother and, you know, my aunts and things. They didn't like give up. They stayed, and things that our generation are more likely to like say, I ain't dealing with it. But a lot of times, even if they haven't asked for your hand in marriage, you're like, I put in this work, so my ring is coming. Let me just keep going. And so that's why you end up staying.
Okay. And, you know, I'm listening to you guys, and we're talking about like the age difference. You know, you have what, your Generation X, your millennials, and we all do. We all think about things differently, right, when it comes down to dating. But the question that I'm going to ask you is, when you get in situationships, do you feel like you choose people that are beneath you?
Oh, I know that is a flaw within myself. Giving people, you know, I try not to think like I'm better than anybody, but then sometimes what ends up happening is you give opportunities and chances to people who don't necessarily deserve them. And then at the end of the day, you're not only hurt because it didn't work out, but it's nothing like being upset with yourself, you know, because you knew better than that, but you tried to give this person a chance and hoping that they were going to come up and match you. So yes, I definitely find myself in that.
Look, Brandon, I have a question for you. When you say situationships, what do you mean when you say situationship?
So when we're looking at a situationship, right, and I'm going to be very candid since I'm being put on the spot as the host, right? We're looking at the fact that you are in this, and look, the word defining the word. You're in this situation. You don't know where it's going. You're doing all of these things that basically lets the world know you're in a relationship, but you're really not in a relationship, right? You're really wanting it to go somewhere, but the other person may be headed in a completely different direction, right? And so when you get put in a situationship, and I, you know, men came front, we get on them too. You know what I mean? When you get put into a situationship, it leaves so many things open and left open for interpretation. Right. And so you're missing some of those biggest things, like that communication piece, or you're missing that dialogue that requires you to both know where you stand in this situation.
Okay. So to answer that question, I just wanted to be clear before I got there. So to answer that question, I think that people become involved in situationships because people are just not either honest or they are not whole. And sometimes situationships serve a purpose in a hurting person's life. Okay. So you find yourself accepting something that you probably wouldn't normally accept if you were on a different level of wholeness.
Okay.
So you find yourself, oh, I'm not going to ask him, what are we doing? I'm going to just go with the flow. You find yourself just kind of suppressing how you would normally have discussions, or suppressing your desires because you are simply comfortable with that person being there, comfortable with that person satisfying a need, whatever that need is, or whether it's more than one need. So I think that's how we get involved in situationships. And I know if a man has good intentions, when you ask him, what are we doing? He can explain it. And he can say, if he gets frustrated when you say, well, what are we doing? He has no intentions.
I agree, Paula.
Okay. So go ahead.
Go ahead,
No, go ahead, Brandon. Just go. No. I'm just like so much.
Yeah. Okay. No, because what I'm hearing from the female perspective is that if men aren't solid in their delivery of what they're expecting, then they're not the one for you. Is that basically what I'm hearing you say?
I think that's what is that what you were saying, Paula?
But if they aren't solid in their delivery of what they're expecting from you, I've had men be very solid in their delivery and say, hey, I just want to sleep with you. And I'm thinking, I appreciate your honesty. That's not where I am, but thank you. At least I know ahead of time. I can make an informed decision. I don't have to waste my time.
Right.
You don't have to waste your time trying to woo me and date me if all you want is one particular thing. And that's not where I am. That's not something that I'm settling for, but I appreciate the upfront honesty.
Okay.
And I think that's the challenge sometimes with adults. We don't want to be honest with what we want. Or if we hear a man say, well, I'm not looking for a relationship, then we start to dumb down what we want. We may want a relationship, but we may be too afraid to express it because something about him we like, but we don't want to say that and push him away in hopes that maybe if he keeps hanging out with me, he'll want a relationship. But he's already been honest in the beginning.
And I had this conversation with a friend, and I'm going to read this comment from India Dion. But most of the time, we are giving our all to situationships and entanglements and no defined relationship titles, boyfriend/girlfriend or husband or wife. And it's kind of what you're saying, that communication. And I think the title to me is a form of communication. So it's not necessarily about the title, but like you said, when you're talking about boundaries in relationship, because boundaries are designed to protect all parties involved. Boundaries are not walls necessarily, but you know how far you're willing to go, what you're willing to accept and that kind of thing. And so to me, yeah, the title is protection because that's it. And if I had something to say to men, it would be, it's okay, like Paula said, to say what it is that you really want, because you might get it, because you might find that sister who is okay with just the wrangle and the but put it out there. We might not like it, but I can respect you for it later.
Right. I would have to say that too. I think that as women, like Paula said, sometimes we kind of dumb ourselves down. But I think as women, you have to be vocal about what it is that you want. You don't have to hide what it is that you want, because that's how you get caught up in those entanglements. And again, you might get what you want, or you can move around and find what it is that you truly want. And something that I never forget, I learned this in college. I remember she was a women and men's communication professor. And what she said was, by your first date in a relationship, a man knows, and LB, you tell us if this is true.
Okay.
She said, by the first, after the first date, they know if they want to go on another date with you. After a month, they know if they want to date you seriously. And at 6 months, they know if they actually see longevity with you. And that always stuck with me. And not necessarily that I always listen to that advice or that information, but I'm like, I always think back to when I do get in an entanglement or a situationship. See, my professor told me that, and I just thought that was powerful.
And, just to piggyback, and I have to agree. I know in the first 5 minutes after talking to you whether or not I want to meet you in person, right? And then after the first date, yeah, I know if I want to see you again. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's absolutely right. But that comes along with experience, right? And looking at what Tony Armstrong said, he said, I think people have forgotten the old saw, be equally yoked. What do each of you want and expect? If you have more incompatibility, so phonics work for me, than shared values, all the good sex and nice gifts in the world won't solve the inequalities.
That's true.
Yeah, that right there is deep. So moving along, we're going to get a little personal moving into the next segment, guys.
Let's do that commercial real quick, though.
Yes, we're going to be going into commercial, guys, in a few minutes, in a few seconds, and then once we come back, we're gonna dig a little personal into these ladies' entanglements. So, y'all, we're gonna still be live. We'll still be going on our end, but they're gonna play a commercial on the side. So we're gonna still continue the conversation, but we're gonna be back in the next 2 minutes. Okay.
This is Speaking with Shulie. You're live on HOH 77.7. We'll be back after this commercial break.
Okay.
The audience, you guys, thank you all for tuning in. Everybody, the comments are popping over here. People are saying truth. We have some comments here. LeBrandon, where do you want to take us? I'm jumping back in host mode, but I'm trying to be true.
No, you listen. We in this thing together. We not together, but we in this thing together.
Hey. partnership?
Well, no, I mean, just really thinking about it, because we looked at a lot of components of entanglement, but sharing the stories is kind of like where what we want to dig into. The
right.
People want to hear, what's going on. Like, how are you dealing with this? After that round table with Jada, it's it didn't kind of hit the fan. So but here's a question that I have for you before we come back on the air, right?
We have a minute. We have 1 minute.
All right. Are you in an entanglement if you only know what the sheets, the carpet, and the ceiling look like?
Definitely.
Yes, that's easy.
Yes. I forget who said it. They hiding something if that's all you know.
Okay. Yeah, because
and they Uber into your house.
Not too much.
Unless they don't have a car.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, I don't want nobody that in a car.
But people, we're looking at it from our perspective, but I would be real interested to know how someone who's 23, 24 would see that same situation, right? Because we typically date at our age with a purpose, right? Yes. We date with an intent. But these new kids, they just, if you're not working, listen, I'm going on to the next thing in the next 30 minutes. You know what I mean? So
all right. So we are back from this commercial break. I am Shulie, and this is Speak It, and I am here with my partner in conversation, LB Jenkins. He's not my boo, but we go together like peanut butter and jelly with this talk thing. All right.
Okay. So now, like I said, we're going to get a little personal this for the next 30 minutes, and we're going to let these ladies kind of share a little bit about their entanglements or their situationships, right? One of the questions that we're going to lead to segue in is we're going to do Paula's favorite question. Paula, if your love life was a movie, what would it be, and how did that situation derive you to this title?
If my love life was a movie, that's a good question. I was married for 19 years.
Come on,
tell the truth. That's what we're here for. That's what we're true for.
I was married for 19 years, and sometimes I wonder, why did I get married? And I only say that because I got married so young. Because it was a cultural thing at the time. I was in church. I was involved in church a lot. And I knew where, I wanted my life to head. I knew where my life was headed. And so, people our age, around our age, everybody was getting married young. So it was like, oh, this is what we're supposed to do. And you don't really know how to be married at 21.
Right.
You don't. You really don't. So that would be the title. Not saying that I would not have gotten married, but it's like, why did I get married at this age? Maybe that would be the appropriate thing.
Okay, and with that, what were the situations that kind of made you understand, I guess, what, for lack of a better term, made you understand your worth as a married woman or as a woman, or what kind of led you to decide what to look for in the future for relationships?
That's a loaded question.
Well, you the LCPC, you should be able to handle it.
Yeah, that's loaded. It's so many things. Again, so many things that happened, so many things. And again, I was young, he was young. We both made a lot of mistakes, a lot of learning. We both, hurt each other in the process, and then tried to work through the pain or whatever. So now, things that are important to me now, there are some things, as we grow, they say every 7 years we change, right? So some things that I may have liked or loved some years ago may not be as important to me, but I do believe the core things that are important to me remain consistent. So now I look for consistency. I look for communication. I look for security, being able to protect me, but also just a genuine love for your family. That is so important to me. To see a man that really loves his family, whether it's his children, his parents, his siblings. That is so important, because it'll bleed over into how he treats you and your children and your family.
Okay. All right. Miss J. Marie, same question.
Without a doubt in my mind, I think what my life or in relationships will be titled would be baby boy. For certain, that would be the title. Just, knowing that this person don't have it together and you just continue to like put up with it, mama's boy, they're showing you all the signs and they just won't get right. You know what I'm saying? So I would definitely say that baby boy is my movie of my life. As a matter of fact, every time Taraji go to that door with the baby, y'all know how BET play it over and over and over again. When she go to that door and he closed the door in her face and she get in the car cry, say, "He don't love me no more." I just started being able not to cry on that part because I was like, this is my life right here. Yes, that is my movie.
Okay. I just saw something, but it looks like it left. Okay, it says Amy Taylor says, yes, the relationship with his family speaks volumes and where your relationship will go, right? So just kind of piggybacking off of what you two said, if you don't see those kinds of things, would you still be willing to enter into that and maybe hopes to change the guy?
Let me tell you, I ended up with a whole book. Okay. I ended up with a whole book because people told me like this family they're not a good family. I mean, all kind of stuff that I would see, and I'm not going to mention any names. You got to read the book. But I continue to try to work through that. And it just ended up being like the most tumultuous situation in my life. And it caused me a lot of pain because like Paula said, if you don't treat your family or your children well, like how can you possibly treat me well? And they might, be able to sugarcoat it and make it look good for a little while, but eventually that truth and who they really are will come out and you'll see like, okay, this is not what I want.
Okay. Now, Miss Shulie, same question for you.
Please repeat the question.
If your life was a movie, if your love life was a movie, what would that movie be and how does it relate to your relationship life?
Okay. I thought about this question. The only thing that came up for me was Love Jones. I'm a hopeful romantic, and you have that poetic nature and the couple who loved each other, but the timing was off and you couldn't quite get it right, but the love was there. And again, being a woman of a certain age, and I met many men along the way. I'm a communicator, talker, friendly, chatty, whatever. But in terms of men that I have loved, not so many, not so deeply. But when I love, I love. But there have been circumstances and situations where it seemed like, oh my gosh, we met. It seemed like it was magic. And then life happened, life got in the way, and it was like we were so close, but yet so far. And that's that thing that I'm at this point, the work that I've been doing, first of all, not taking that personally. And for a long time, that made me feel like, what's wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me? In terms of, let me try to get closer to God. Maybe I'm not Christian enough. Maybe I'm not praying enough. Maybe I'm not this enough or whatever. And people might see me in, on the out, since we out here being honest and truthful, right? Because on Facebook and social media, I don't post a lot about relationships. I've never posted a relationship status, but behind the scenes, of course, I've definitely dated. I've definitely been in love, but I've had to shift that. Like, man, I want love. I desire love. I want that right person. And I have just walked in a place of being free and loving me and realizing that if a person is not in my life, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with me. It could just be bad timing. It could just be maybe, again, going back to wholeness. That's important. But I've done so much work. I would say that's the pivot and the turnaround from that. But yes, honey, love Jones. I got a Jones, but I can't quite get it.
And our friend Rocky Rose says, what about them and their kids?
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
I got to scratch my head on that one.
Well, go ahead and talk to about
something that you said.
Yes.
You asked a question as it relates to something about expectations of changing a man or something.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. I do not believe in changing anybody. I do not believe that we have the ability to change anybody. What I do believe is that you make the decision on what you are willing to accept and what is, quote unquote, a deal breaker for you. Because what I do understand is whenever you get in a real relationship, not situationships, not entanglements, but when you get in a real relationship and you are in love with the person, you have to always remember that whatever it is that you don't like, that really kind of gets on your nerves, is going to be magnified once you get out of that honeymoon stage.
Right.
So you have to understand what you can work with and what you're like, you know what, I can't deal with that. And as far as the question, as it relates to their children, I would hope that they have good relationships with their children. And I saw a comment where it said, you know, be careful because you don't want those relationships with their parents to be overbearing to where it's a problem with you. And so hopefully by this age, women of a certain age, we understand, we know how to decipher what's appropriate and what would be uncomfortable or potentially a problem.
Okay.
As it comes to relationships with their parents and I'm really hoping that they really have good relationships with their children, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like Paula said, it speaks volumes, their relationship with their children and also their parents as well. Like I have one to this day, I call her monster-in-law. And I'm like, I should have known better because she is the true definition of monster-in-law. And you also have to pay attention to those relationships with their kids, how they are when they're around you with their kids and how they are with their kids when you're not around. Because I was bamboozled in one of my situations where it looked like they were amazing dad. And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm the one picking up the kids from their mom. I'm the one, bathing and cooking, and I'm taking the girls to the nail shop. And so it looks like you're a great father because we're all together. But really, if it were not for me, putting myself out there, you really weren't a good father. And in fact, eventually the mom was like, my kids ain't never seen their daddy this much until you came around.
Ooh, that's very telling.
Yes. So you have to pay attention to those things because if you in a relationship are looking for longevity, kids may come even at women of a certain age. People are having babies at 50 now. You know what I'm saying? So you have to pay attention to those things because don't think that, they're just like that with those kids. They're not going to be like that with my kid because they're going to be that way with your kid as well.
Okay. And Toya Walk says she better tell it. She says she giving it all. But you guys are making some very valid points. Roger Gibson says, that's right, Paula. It happens with him. He will change if you will. Through you being you and him wanting to be the best for you. A woman can't change a man. He has to want to be better for you, to you, with you on his own inside tip.
Which is hilarious. Now look, that's my brother. At first I was like, wait, what you trying to say, brother? What you trying to say? Oh look, he will change if you will. What you trying to put the responsibility on us? But yeah, this is my brother saying that. But I do agree that you can't change a man. And I remember in my younger years, I thought that I could. That was like 20s, Shulie, right? If I tell you, if I force it on you or try to make these ultimatums and these demands and things like that somehow you would want to change. But I definitely agree that you keep being you. And I think the decision that we have to make, if you know what you want and going back to those boundaries and just knowing what you want for yourself, and then the work that you've done. And if you don't see that, then we have a decision to make. And I had this discussion with actually my sister today. We were talking about relationships in my family. Like we have these talks, and a no is a no. Like even a man not saying anything to you when you've asked him a question, or if you ask him what it is that you want and he doesn't respond, no response is a response. And so we don't have to get into trying to force or manipulate. We just have a decision to make from that point, what we want to do and how we want to move forward.
And so I want to say this, Shulie, I want to say this. We have to make that decision, but sometimes it's like, ooh, I really don't want to do it. But I feel like you have to make that decision right then, because it's better to make that decision then and feel uncomfortable or hurt or whatever, feeling you're going to experience. It's better to make that decision then than to drag it out, because it just makes it worse as you continue to stay in that situation.
That is true.
Okay. We have Dre Tolliver. Dre Tolliver says some parents-children relationships are toxic, and the spouse suffers. Okay, my bad. Look, I told y'all hooked on phonics work for me. What now? I'm hearing you guys say a lot of things about, the man responding. A no answer is no answer at all. You know what I mean? But do you think that sometimes when you ask a man a question, the question has probably caught them off guard and they just don't know how to respond at that moment?
I respect that. I was going to say, I respect that. And that could happen. But if you never come back around to it, then to me, I feel like you are avoiding it. But then also, if we have been spending time together, getting to know each other, and I believe that if you're not even requiring, but you're asking certain things. I remember a guy told me that I had a certain way that I like to be dated. Again, at one point in my life, I really was about, it's a black and white. Look, Rakisha said, yes. Hell no. That it was like so black and white. And I realized that there is some gray in there, but look, nah, son, we need to talk about this.
Right.
We talked about this last week and you didn't say anything. I gave you time. Now you're not going to waste my time, because again, I'm a woman of a certain age. And I did that. I did that in my 20s. And again, I'm not that chick, like, this is what I want. Check it off. I'm coming to you. And if you can't give it to me, we can't do, like, I'm not her. I'm not jaded. I've done that work to stay open to love. But I do require a certain level of respect. And if you want access to my body, but then we can't even have open communication, there's no access to the body. That's not what we're doing. We're not going to even start. We're not going down that road.
Right.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the communication, right? So because we all know that communication in 2020 is much different. Back in the day, you could dial the phone, your mama's, you pick up the phone at your mama's house. But today we're doing a lot of texting. We're doing a lot of emailing. What kind of mindset does that put you in when you're talking to a guy and all you can do is text or email or FaceTime on the way home, those kind of things like that?
I think at this age, like, were you born in 1997? Because we need to talk. There are certain things that, texting in school, I love to text. I even do the voice text, all of that. But it's certain things that just can't be communicated through text. It needs to be a conversation, in face or over the phone. So texting is cool to some extent, but you have to actually have those conversations.
Okay.
What I've come to learn is in my 3 years of dating, I've been divorced for almost 3 years, but I've come to learn about men and communication and texting. Listen, if you have something you want to say that is more than 1 or 2 sentences, he's not going to read the paragraph.
Oh,
he may read the first 2 sentences, that's it.
I'm not.
So save all of that. Save all of that. Save your energy. But like you said, you weren't born in 1997. And unfortunately, dating looks so different now than it did when we were in high school and college. Because to me, back then, guys dated more with a purpose back then. If they were with you, they were with you. These days, they are sampling and they are trying to see, or sometimes they may feel like they're missing out. So they're and it could be that maybe they were hurt in a previous long-term relationship. So now they're bouncing back and trying to get a feel or whatever. But communication is definitely pick up the phone. I need to hear tone, because I'm interpreting a text based on my perception, not based on how you send it, but based on how I'm putting tone and understanding to it.
Okay. And guys, listen, we're having great conversation tonight. We're talking about entanglements. We're talking about situationships. We're getting the female perspective. But as we kind of tone it down a little bit, I need y'all to tell me, where can we find you guys on social media?
Oh, okay. I'll go first. So I have multiple social media accounts. One of them, my author page, is Speak, saying positive, encouraging all kinds. So that's my like trademarked brand. It's Speak, S.P.E.A.K _ with J, the author. I'm also on Facebook at Jessica Marie, MED. And I also have another Instagram page that is just me being J. And it is J Marie _ it's me, because I'ma always be me.
Okay, Paula, tell them where they can find you, ma'am.
On Instagram, you can find me Paula _Son _. And on Facebook, you can find me as Paula Son.
Okay. And Miss Shulie, as always, let's tell them where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at Shulie Says, and you can find me every Thursday here at Speak It, as we're having great conversations. And of course, at the Speech and Voice Care Center of Houston. Google me.
Right. Okay. And listen, I'm with my girl Shulie tonight, man. That is my partner in crime. She's the yin to my yang on this Speak It conversation kind of, situation kind of platform. But I have enjoyed it. Ladies, listen, I appreciate you taking the time out your schedule. So just kind of share your perspective from a woman's standpoint as it relates to relationships, as it relates to situationships and those kind of things like that. It has been great. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We do have an addition tonight, so we have a prize giveaway. So Miss Shulie, would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So let me change this angle. So this shirt, we had Finding the Right Fit. I started that back in 2017. We have the I am ... affirmations are real. I hope you are speaking love to yourself. But I have the I am the right fit t-shirt. We have a giveaway for that tonight, and we are going to give that to the first person who dropped their city tonight. And I had to scroll all the way back up to the top when we asked everybody to drop their city. The first person that tuned in was Amy Taylor. Hello from Houston.
All right, Graham fam.
Amy is Graham fam, and she is a speaker supporter. We have more questions here. We have like a couple minutes left, but we're gonna have to close out. I will say this, jump on over in the conversation, ladies, when we get off, and we'll continue this conversation in the chat. Thank you, audience, for tuning in. Everybody was so engaged. Yeah. There's more. We're coming back because we want to get all of the perspectives. Make sure you share this conversation on your Facebook. You can share it from your YouTube channel, text it out to the people. People are still having comments. Robin Gibson has a question real quick, LeBrandon, I think we'll address. Okay. Are guys able to sample so much because females are conditioned to accept more? I think we need to talk about that in one of our next conversations coming up about relationships. The short of that is I kind of feel like, I think we have been conditioned to accept less, and men have been able to get away with more. But that's just my opinion. We need to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on the next conversation piece that we have. Robin, make sure you come back and reiterate that question so that we can make sure that we answer it, because it is. I have an answer, but we got it all off. We didn't ran out of time, but
I know. We'll definitely get an answer. The conversation continues in our Fear to Freedom group. Go there. That's where we do the work. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, in the West African way, Ashe is how you say amen. Ashe is how you say I agree. Ashe is how you use the power of your words to speak that thing into existence. Go out there, build healthy relationships. And until we see you next time, stay safe and speak it. Good night.
Good night, guys.